So, class. So tonight's practice is called a Yin Yang class. What does that mean? So Yang is the active practice of yoga where we move freely. So for example, a sun salutation series would be a Yang practice, where we move and flow from one pose to the other. The Yin practice is obviously held poses for up to about 5 minutes. So they're quieter, more still poses. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a Yang practice first of all, which means we're going to be quite rigorous and get some heat into the body. And then we'll finish off with probably about 4 to 5 max poses at the end where they will be held. So that will develop some deep stretches and works into what we call the connective tissue. When you're ready to come into pranayama, our first part of class, our breathing, we'll take a moment to slow the breath down. You can gently bow down towards the abdomen. Just take a moment to allow the breath to come gradually and slowly in and out through the nose here. Take a moment to notice that this breath fills the lungs from the very base, what we call the lower lobes of the lungs, as we fill all the way up to the very top. You want to feel how both the chest and the belly rise and expand on an inhale. Perhaps observing that moment of pause between the two breaths. When we exhale, mindful of all of the breath emptying, without feeling that we have to push or force the last of the breath out. Notice the slowness of the breath, that it's not rushed. You might also observe how the breath, as it stays very slow, also helps to start to regulate and slow down the heartbeat. When we do a Yin, Yang practice, inevitably the heart rate begins to elevate just because of the rapidity of the poses and also sometimes the speed of the practice as well. So a gentle reminder to connect your breath with the movement, to stop that sensation or feeling as though that the heart is overbeating or that you can feel like it's racing. Now as we keep the breath equal in length, the inhalation and exhalation the same length, just start to invite a small amount of movement into the hands and the feet, just a little wriggle here. We'll just bring that movement back here. Letting the eyes just slowly open as we adjust to the light. If you're not sitting, come and take a seat. If you are lying, come up into seated pose. We call this Sukhasana, easy sitting pose. It won't matter what leg that you pop in front because we will change them, but one leg will be crossed in front of the other. and the palms of the hands will come and meet us at the floor. You want to notice that when you come into flexion or this forward fold that you don't round the back, but you keep it straight and you actually hinge from your hips, you hinge from your pelvis, so you rock your fingers forward. It's nice and slowly, and then we just fold at that crease line. The head softens, it just relaxes here between the arms. And so that we don't feel as though we're going to roll off our sit bones, we press the palms of the hands down into our mat, and then we push them forward, and you might then start to feel how it rolls you back over and onto your sit bones. It allows us this sort of obvious stretch into the lower part of the back as well. It's a nice way just to start to release through the back and to open up through the hips. Take the breath in for the hands to walk in. The trunk will then lift slowly. Change the legs. And the other one in front. And take it again here. Once again, folding at that crease line that we imagine across the two hips. Pressing the palms down to the mat, then forward towards the front of your mat. Taking the breath in to walk the hands in and to allow the trunk to come back up and to lift. Straighten both the legs out in front here. And with the arms lengthening to help get us out of our hips. Once again, that same crease happens as we fold at the hips here. And we bring the hands downwards towards the legs. You don't have to hold the feet, but you can hold on to any part of the leg. By holding onto the leg or the foot, you are able to draw the trunk a little closer towards the two thighs here. So don't worry about what happens to your head. It will either just naturally relax and hang. You don't have to pull it to your knees. We're thinking here chest to the thighs. And as a result, that will then bring about some stretch into the hamstrings. So that's where you should feel it. Mostly at this stage behind, to say the back of the knees towards the mid fleshy part of the hamstrings. If you feel as though that you'd like to add the calves into it, then obviously the toes can pull back. You might use your hands if you can get them that far to actually assist in pulling them back, but even just that physical movement of you pulling the toes back and pushing away via your heels will just start to add that extra length through the back of the hamstrings and into the calves here. Releasing the hands from the feet as we breathe in, the trunk slowly begins to lift up from here. Slide the soles of the feet onto the floor. We can go slightly wider than the hips here. It doesn't matter where the arms are or what configuration that the hands look like. It's for us to go into knee floats, so the arms are really here just to support us so we don't fall out the back. So the knees will float to one side. Again, it doesn't matter which one it is, then they get to float to the other side. So we're just thinking exactly the same as like our little windscreen wiper knees that we do when we're, say, lying on our backs. We do this one in what we call a prone position as well, where we face down and our legs are the same kind of windscreen wiper. It's to start to prep these hips here. We'll do one more each way. Next time your legs head out towards the left, leave them there on the left. Take the left leg over the top and pull the right knee a little further down to the floor. Don't worry if it doesn't get to the floor. Okay. If you're lounged out the back like me, walk your hands in a little bit more so that you're more upright. It'll make a big difference. when we become more upright, then it will encourage this right sit bone to roll a little deeper down to the floor. It'll be slightly stronger into hip. It might even run down through the front of the leg here. And then you can add a little more to this by twisting. So this leg underneath, so this should be our right leg, we're going to rotate our shoulders around to that right hand side. Shoulders roll around, hip can follow us a little bit stronger on that hip. So again, depending on where you feel tight is obviously where the sensation is. So some people will feel this, say, running down the front of the thigh, even into the inner groin maybe. Sometimes, and like even say for me, like I can feel this really deep into my glute, into my sit bone, like almost like it's sort of like right at the bone point, which is very we call it the piriformis muscle, very much into that piriformis. So it can be quite a deep stabilizing muscle as well you can get into. It's a little bit stronger than your lying version. Good. Square the shoulders up if you have them rotated. Bring these legs back up. Repeat on the other side. Float right. Should be the right leg that helps weight the left one down. Do the same thing. Watch that you're not lounging out the back. Walk on in. Roll. This time it's the left hip to have a little bit more active contact to the floor. And if you want to go a little deeper, then we start twisting around to the left. So shoulders will rotate with us. Again, these are all just little extras, refinements if you feel as though that there's more room to move with the hip. And as we breathe in, the shoulders will square back up. As we bring the legs back up, leave this right ankle onto the left thigh. Okay, so it's going to be your figure four. Hands will do right hand will reach through your little hole, and your left hand will come and find the shin. Both hands hold the shin here. Again, don't let it thrust you back. Use your hands to pull you into the leg here. So this is your seated version of what we do when we lie on our backs. Same principle here to opening up this right hip. So we want to encourage this right leg to stay away from us. Okay, it's going to want to sneak up here near our shoulder. But if we want to open up the hip, we need to try and keep the knee a little bit further away from the trunk. So as we pull out of it, we're going to back out. We're going to take this, so you can bring your hands behind you. The left leg's going to swing up around to the right side. You're going to think head of the cow for me. Just grab this right ankle, slip those legs down on top of each other. And you're into that deeper hip stretch. So that one was a little easier. The figure four is easier. This one's now a little tougher. You might find that you want to lean out to the left to stop that from happening. You either actively anchor the right sit bone down, or you'll even just get a little bit of the flesh from outside, out of the left glute, because it wants to roll in. The legs sort of roll in, and as a result, the flesh tucks in underneath you. You want to get the flesh out, so you're seeing on your sit bones. Come through the front for me, a little bit deeper. So again, some people might sit here and think, this is really strong where it is. I really don't need to go forward, and that's perfectly fine, because you want to be what I call true and authentic in your pose, and not feel as though that you're trying to find ways to cheat just to feel as though you need to come through the front here. When you take the next breath in, these hands will slide in order to bring the trunk up. The right foot goes flat on the floor. The left ankle comes and sits onto the right thigh. Just breathe through. You collapse the shin. Once again, we pull in. The left leg stays opening out away from the body. Again, pulling the trunk in towards this right leg. Keeping the left knee out away from the body line. Gently easing back, lean out, right leg tuck around, left leg. So you could do this. You could do a little of the fishes, which is a little easier for you. You want to work a little stronger, and you want to swing that leg around and try and stack the knees. replace that flesh, equal weight on those two sit bones. Take a moment just to let this left hip adapt. So it goes into a bit of a shock first of all, and then once it begins to settle, and maybe we can come through the front. Breathing in with the hands walking and the trunk will slowly lift back up from here. Release this top left leg off and around and find your way to all fours. As the hands sit underneath the shoulders and the knees are under the hips, when you're ready to come and take a few cat-cows, it's going to be that breath out as we crawl up. We roll through the spine and the breath in sends us into cow pose. So start to roll through the spine a few times. Cat, exhale. Cow, inhale. And start to synchronize the breath, the movement. After that last cow pose, and the spine comes into a neutral, flat back. Left leg will lead out the back here. If we're going to active cat, pull the knee towards your forehead. Breathe in, let the leg extend at the back. Take a push up in between, arms rubbed by your ribs. It's a tricep push up with the arms glide by the rib cage. And they stay close to the body line. So it's like you're going to plank lower. Using the same group of muscles. Another two. If you would like to on your last one, hold it. You're welcome to stay down longer. Otherwise you can push straight back up. Once you come to the other side, wide arms, this time it'll be a push-up using your chest as opposed to your triceps. Therefore the hands have to come and sit either side of the mat so that your elbows this time come and stack over your wrists and that you don't overload your wrists here. And the joints are nicely stacked. Two more here. Once again, know on your last one if you want to stay down longer. You can work a little harder in that static pose. Come out, the hands will return back underneath the shoulders, lift the knees a little closer, bring them back under the hips. As we prepare to pull up and back, we find down facing dog, checking in that the feet are hip distance, the hands are shoulder width apart, and as we set all of our alignments here, raise up onto the balls of your feet. Drop one heel after the other down to the floor so it goes tip toes, heel drop. Tip toes, heel drop. Each time that you individually drop a heel, you should start to feel that
isolation of that one calf. Should be a little bit deeper and a little stronger. One after the other. Good. One more each leg. Before you release both heels down towards the floor. And take the left leg to lead you back behind what we call three-legged down dog. Allow the right heel to drop a little deeper into your mat. Bring the left knee then into your chest. And kick the left leg out to the right edge of your mat. It'll go on the floorboards. Don't let your weight at this point shift forward. You need to keep pressing the palms of your hands down into the mat and forward. Feel like you're still in down dog. You've just slipped this leg out and off to the side. And as you do, pull this left hip back towards the wall behind you a little more. You might start to feel this into the hamstring or into the calf in this left leg. When you're ready, breathe in, shift your weight forward. It's a variation of plank. Your shoulders are still parallel to the floor. And leave the left hand onto the floor as we inhale, open the right arm up. So now it's like a side plank. Breathe out, tuck the right arm underneath the left arm. Breathe in, open the right arm up. Good, thread and tuck. And breathe into open. Good, exhale, thread. And breathe in, open. One more as we thread. We open, the right hand returns back to the floor, three-legged down dog. And breathe out with the left knee into the chest, look forward to the hands and step forward. From in as you do, walk the foot off your mat onto the floorboards. It sits on that little 45-degree angle here. It takes you into lounge lizard, fold down at the elbows. If we need that back right now on the floor, drop it down. If not, it gets to stay high. You can roll out on the little toe and what we call the knife edge of that left foot to open the hip a little bit more. We've done a few hip releases. It's a little easier if you roll out on the foot. And then breathing in, straighten up the two arms. And then hold here as you exhale, keep the hips super low. Keep dropping them, but keep that back leg straight if you can. Open the left arm as you breathe in. You can breathe out, close the left arm. Take the right arm to open, breathe in. And breathe out, right hand goes under the floor, three-legged down dog again for me. Breathe out, bring the left knee into the chest, look forward to your hands, step forward to the front part of your mat. This time lift up into lunge warrior one. You're going to come into what we call cactus arms, elbows are in line with the shoulders. Arms pull back, chest presses forward. Breathe in, straighten the left leg, straighten your arms. Breathe out, pull your elbows down to your ribs and bend into that back knee. Breathe in. And then breathe out, double lunge. Breathe in. And breathe out. Good. One more for me. Good. Fingertips towards the floor. Straighten up that front left leg if you need your blocks. Bring them in. Left leg is straight as is your back. Right leg, point your right hip down to the floor. Subtly pull your left hip back. Drop your chest a little deeper into this left thigh. We start to feel more hamstring here as we get closer to the leg. You want to squeeze your left heel into the center of your mat for me here as well. Okay, so the idea here is as you squeeze your heel into the center of the mat, it opens your inner thigh a little bit more towards the ceiling. Okay, it plugs your femur bone, your leg bone into your hip socket a little more snug as well. And then when you're ready, plant the back right foot to the floor. Don't let the left hip swing out. Remember, keep tucking that left hip into your body. Triangle pose comes as you open your right arm up. That left arm gets to stay there. Again, breathe in, pull on up. Breathe out, sink into warrior two. Your front knee bends and your arms are long. They run parallel to the floor. Breathe in, windmill the arms down to the floor. The back right leg lifts. This is warrior three. Your right hip at the moment points down to the floor. Then keep equal weight all the way through this left foot. Bring your hands off the floor, hands to heart, back up leg, parallel to that roof. Swing the arms out the back, almost like you're going to try and touch those heels. Breathe out, fingertips go down to the floor. As you breathe in, open your right arm up to the ceiling. This is half moon. Rotate the right hip around to the roof whilst you're there. And breathe out, right hand goes down, right hip goes down. Bend into the left knee. Come on up, balance on the left leg. You should strengthen your right and your left glute. Come on up, hug your knee to your chest. Soften into the left knee, eagle pose. Wrap the right around the left. Give it a second look if you can. Try the arms, right round left. If you can't get the second twist, just go with one. Tap the foot to the floor if we can't get that second little twist. This is called eagle crunch, where the elbows, you have to keep your balance and keep your gaze, come down towards your thigh. As you breathe in, you need to come up. And breathe out as you tip. Keep that strength in that left glute. Take your time. Breathe in the power in your bum. Feet go to the floor, arms go to the roof. Exhale, Uttanasana, forward fold. That's where you get to stretch those hamstrings. Release the glutes. Breathe in, bend the knees. Your hands will go to the floor. The left leg steps back to down dog. Your right leg comes there and follows. And joins it. Here's where we get one plank. Inhale. You can choose to go to your knees if you wish. Otherwise, this plank goes to the floor, one solid line. Take your time. Pull it up to cobra. Try not to lift the legs, but just lift the trunk. Use your back to do that. Less pressure in the hands, more work in your back. And breathe out, push up, press back, moving down dog again with the right leg leading you back behind. It's just three-legged down dog here. Breathe out, right knee to your belly. Kick it out to your left. Good. Pull the right hip back to the wall behind you. Square up those hips. The next breath in takes you to the plank version. Shoulders over wrists. Belly in firm. Side plank when you're ready. Open the left arm. And breathe out, tuck the left arm under. Breathe in, open it. And breathe out, tuck. Breathe in. Breathe out. Spin it under. One more breathe in. Breathe out to the twist. Both hands back onto the floor, three-legged down dog. Hold it here, breathe in. Good, breathe out into your chest, step forward to your hands. Lounge lizard comes as you walk your foot. This right little guy hangs off on that diagonal. Alrighty, back leg can go onto the floor. It's a little stronger if the knee is off. Hands can either go onto the floor or you can drop a little lower and go down into forearms. Come onto that knife edge of the right foot when you're ready. Straighten up those arms as we inhale. Leave the left onto the floor. Take your next breath in to open up. Right arm, doesn't matter, any arm. And breathe out, close it down. Use the breath, inhale, other arm. Exhale, both hands are on. Three-legged down dog, circle back. Checking the hands at hip distance, the shoulder width I should say. Get ready to bring the knee into the chest. Step forward, take your lunge. Lunge warrior, why not come those arms with those cactus arms. Okay, elbows are back. Shoulder blades slide down. Sink into that hip. Good. So you want to drive through the legs. Press as we lift up. Come on down. Breathe out. Double lunge. Good. Drive on the inhale. And down on the exhale. Stay down the last one. Fingertips to floor, straighten out your right leg on. Chest to thigh. Plug that right hip back into the hip socket by squeezing the right hip into the center of your mat. Find a deeper hamstring stretch as you drop the chest to the leg. And as the head pulls down to the foot, to the ankle. Pivot onto that back left foot, plant it. Keep tucking the right hip into the body. Triangle pose comes as you open the left arm slowly up to the moon. Pull up by pressing through the feet. Drive through the feet. Use those obliques. Warrior two, sink into that front knee. Look down the front arm. Knee and ankle, they stack over each other. Wiggle the arms to the floor, find your time. Get your balance. The back foot pivots. Push off it. Keep pointing the left hip down to the floor. Find weight through the 4 points of the foot. So big toe, little toe. And imagine that there's 2 points towards your heel. Okay, so try and feel like there's lots of surface area there. Good, hands come to the heart center. The back lifts parallel the roof. There's a line that runs from the crown of your head to your big toe. Keep your sharp focus here. Arms go out the back, so try not to let your gaze wander. Good. Breathe out, fingertips go to the floor. Open that left arm up to the ceiling. Open your left hip up to the roof. Moon pose. Good. Breathe out, the left hip points down. The left hand comes down. Soften into your right knee. Then into the left. Get ready. You're going to come to stand. Keep your stillness. Keep lifting out of your ankle, keep lifting out of your knee, keep lifting out of your hip. Lift from the crown of the head. Your left leg jumps over your right. It hooks again. Your hips sit square in front of your mat. Your arms do the same. Elbows left. Shoulder blades widen and broaden. Elbows to knees. Breathing, come on. One more. Feet to the floor, arms to the roof. Dive over as you exhale. Look at your knees, let your head relax. And breathe out, hands meet the mat. Go back with your right leg to down dog. Your left leg will join it. Here's where we then transition to one plank. This plank, remember, can be on your knees. And use that very slow, all of your breath. Take it down. Cobra when you're breathing in. This time try cobra without any hands. Leave the feet on the floor. Try not to squeeze into the glutes. And breathe out, soften the palms to the floor. Child's pose when you're ready. Wriggle your bottom back into your heels. And breathing in, take the inhalation to bring the trunk slowly up. To sit for me here. We're going to start now into our yin practice. As I said, it's super slow. Don't be deceived though. Slow doesn't necessarily mean easy. So, our first pose is called dragonfly. It's a wide-legged position that the legs will be in. My suggestion, because you've got like 5 minutes here, you may need some propping up, e.g. towel, blankie, jacket even, rolled up mat at the end. It's to get your hips slightly higher and it allows your pelvis to tip forward so you don't feel like you're doing this. which can happen when your adductors in your lower back are super tight. If you don't need it, you don't need it, it's okay. But even, you know, like honestly, even someone who does regular practice, it can be nice just to have a look, just a little bit to allow you to feel like your pelvis is at least wanting to go forward. So Yin it's a relatively new practice. Poses aren't new. The idea of holding them in there's some variations into the poses, but it's a practice that takes along the philosophy of traditional Chinese medicine, or what we call TCM. And it relates to seasons, and it relates to organs, and as a result of it relating to organs, it relates to meridians. So the organ related to winter is the kidneys and the bladder. So the kidney meridian is the one of the inner leg lines of the leg. So I always say it's like your seam lines of your trousers. It's a little bit more defined than that, but that gives us a good enough idea. It's an inner leg. And then the bladder meridians tend to be on the back line of the body, the back of the leg, and they come up to the head. This position here will be a forward fold. My suggestion also is that if you get here and you think, oh, it's really hurting my head or my neck, if you had, say, something like blocks that you might go, look, you know what, I can get to here, this is super comfortable, I don't feel like I'm straining, feel free to use some props. So in Yin, you are allowed to use props. It's just not like restorative where you're here for this little loungy, cushy rest. Okay, so you still want to feel like you're working here. If it gets too hard underneath the backs of the knees, for example, like I know some people will, if their hammies are tight, that will even hurt their knees. Yes, you can soften them, but it might even be for some people that they might even need to put like a little blankie bridge in that even gap if it just feels like it's nicer. If you feel like it's like a super kill on the backs of your legs. So we say that in Yin you've got to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Okay, so this is not going to be overly pleasant, but at the same time it shouldn't be so discomforting that you feel like something's going to break or something's going to snap. So there's a difference between, I was there very you know the difference between good pain and bad pain. Okay, so you've got to feel that something's going on, but you don't want to feel that it's that excruciating, that it's what I call unbearable. Okay, it's got to be uncomfortable, but it's not unbearable. I'll be the timekeeper, so I will tell you and give you a good cue as to when to come out. As I said, we usually sit anywhere between 3 and 5 minutes in a Yin pose. Our Yin pose here, dragonfly or wide legs. You'll also notice that a lot of winter Yin practice is about stimulating circulation in the back, across the back line of the body, the back of the body where the kidneys are. So we'll stimulate circulation in the side body, across the back, the inner legs. So traditional Chinese medicine uses a terminology called Jin, J-I-N. This means the powerhouse or our life energy, and that comes from the kidneys because they're our filtering system. So they have a fairly important role. Kidneys will filter about 3.6 to 3.7 litres of blood every hour. Pretty big role that they have for such a small organ. What you might know is that when you come in and you sit in one of the Yin poses, that we call it the edge. We need to know where the edge of the pose is. So that's where you can feel that there's discussion going on in the legs. We want to meet ourselves at the edge. We can sort of look over the edge, but we don't want to jump. So in other words, we need to find that Goldilocks position, where it's not too much, not too little, but it's just right. because it is a little slower, then you also want to take time to focus on each of your breaths. So it's a perfect opportunity to come back in and settle into a nice rhythm, a nice flow with the breath. And as with any yoga pose, we meet ourselves where we're at, but that can change as we sit in a pose for longer. There's that adaptation that starts to happen. So in Yin, it's about the connective tissue, it's about the fascia, it's about the ligaments, about the tendons. And these all start to soften as we sit in it. So you might explore if it feels right and when it feels right. That little edge now starts to change in this pose. It's not like it was when you first went into it. Take the breath in. When you're ready to come up again, don't rush to come up. Just ease out of the pose very, very slowly. What's most important when you come out of this particular out of dragonfly is that you don't strain your groin by just dragging your legs. And so my suggestion is grab underneath the back of the leg and assist your legs in. They're going to feel like they're locked because you need to take your time as you pull them back in. Once you've finished here, come around into child's pose. If in child's you feel that it's too strong on your knees, one, you can prop up a little higher. Sometimes even by having something as simple as a little thin wafer of fabric underneath the backs of the knees can be enough to take sometimes the ouch or the pinch out. Again, this starts to stimulate the kidney meridians across the back line of the body. We're going to make a slight change to our traditional version of this. We usually have arms out in front, but we're going to do a threaded version. Your left arm's going to thread underneath your right, like you would say thread the needle, but your right arm, it's going to stay straight here. So you may find, oh, there's nowhere for my head to go. Okay, this is where you might bring a little block for your head if you feel like you need just a gentle amount of support. You don't want to feel like you're straining your neck. Or even just a little towel or a blanket wrapped up. We have a long right arm and a long left arm. We're also sitting back into the heel. So my suggestion is plant your right palm into the mat and then push it forward like you would if you were in that Sukhasana where we sat at the beginning of class to try and get ourselves back on our sit bones. Then we're trying to get our bum back on our heels. So right hand pushes down into your mat and forward. Your left hand keeps walking across to your right, but when it's had, its range, when it's completed its range, then you get to pull your left shoulder back towards the left edge of your mat. Okay, so there's this pushing down and forward of your right hand. There's a pushing down and pulling back with your left arm to open up the back of the shoulder. And just again again start to sit into a bit of a flow that comes with the breath. You keep finding more and more contact of the sit bones and the heels. We still are mindful that there's, a little bit of a conversation going on in the muscles, be it that left shoulder or the lower back, right shoulder. We're not here just to silently rest. It still is a working practice. At this stage, both arms are quite straight. As we ease out of this one, start to soften the elbows. It'll become less of an active pose, more what we call inactive. Take your time again to slowly slide the left arm out. The right arm comes back in. You can thread again straight away. Left will go along, right can thread underneath. And as we follow the same pattern, the long left arm presses down and forward. This sits you back deeper into your heels. So this is where the kidneys start to open, and then the bladder meridian is when the right hand sticks to the floor and pulls back. That right shoulder pulls back towards the right edge of the mat. And in having a little bit of a visual of where the kidneys sit in the back of the body, imagine yourself breathing. Your breath goes into the back of the body. It's hard to breathe into the front of your body. The front of your body is all closed down and contained. Try to breathe into the open space, open structure of the back. Continue just to assess the edges of your pose. And how that you can keep it as a working pose, not something that you've just sort of relaxed into. Allow the arms to soften a little more so the elbows will now bend. And gradually draw the hands in as we then gradually draw the trunk up. Take a moment as you roll over onto your back for me here. This will eventually lead us into Shavasana, so if you want to just put the last of your layers, because now we will, after this week, we won't move again at all, so we will be actually cooling down. The last one, again, as we look into hips, and open up through the living meridian, is a lying butterfly pose. It's a little more supportive than, say, seated butterfly pose, less demanding on the back. But what might be helpful in this one is that as we come down to that soles of the feet, this can be quite weighty on those legs. Obviously gravity's taking the legs down. So it could be that we use a block on its slight angle, or even any structure that you might have, blankets, or for some people they just throw their bolster between their legs as well. It could be a foam roller, whatever works for you, that you don't feel. You don't want to feel that there's this strain in the groin. What starts to happen is that when we drop quite deep into the ligaments here of the pelvis, to compensate it, the back can begin to arch. In other words, you will want to try and tip the pelvis forward. So be really mindful once you're down here on your mat that your rib cage is on the floor. The back of your ribs are on the mat. Don't worry about how high up or how low down your knees are. Support where need be, but as I said, not that propped that you feel as though that you're in restorative, that you're actually just in a deep rest. Okay, you're still working. Yeah. What can happen in any practice, be it yin or the flow or vinyasana, other muscles will try to come in and help us here. Sometimes here, the glutes will want to contract. We'll start to feel the glutes tighten up. Even things like pelvic floor will start to tighten up. This is to try and hold these legs in space. We want to try and soften all the muscles. We want to try and imagine that all the muscles are as relaxed and have the least amount of resistance in them as possible. we come to draw this pose in, use your hands underneath the sides of these legs to gently assist. Again, they're going to feel like they're locked for a moment, so you have to help them gradually come back in. From then slide the legs into Shavasana. Again, if you use props underneath the backs of your legs, as in say a bolster or your blanket underneath the backs of your legs, definitely prop up here. Often when we do a straight in class, we'll do, we call it a reset pose in between. Shavasana is usually one of them, or lying on our belly can be another. But this you'll start to feel in Shavasana a little more replenishing. Keep that fullness to each of your breaths. Feel the body soften on the exhale. We sense the muscles releasing, letting go. need to roll over, to rest onto a side. So we use the hands to press our way up slowly into sitting. Our palms get to meet us at the heart center. And it's here that we get to close our practice together. Finish with Namaste. Namaste. Hope that feels a little bit better for you. You got to move, so you got warm. You got to stretch. But to take, I call this is like a win-win class.